Hello, everybody. How are you doing? I'm Brandon. You're watching the ADHD Late Night Dev Stream, hanging out, working on stuff. I'm over here working on Tiny, the last wayfinder. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. We're doing good. We're doing very good. I had the all important work here today of having to add hats. You got to have hats. It's very important. I put that, I literally put that in a descriptor at one point in the game saying there would be collectibles. So I've been doing that. I've been, hey, we have controller support. If you haven't played it on controller, I personally like playing it on controller quite a bit. But anyway, I was hanging out thinking, and I thought about something about my progress as a game designer, as a dev, and where it is and where it's going. Um, and I wanted to talk about it. And I thought I don't want to do a full video about it, but I can go live and just I don't know, free verse because I'm feeling introspective. I'm feeling reflective. It's late night, and you get to thinking, and I've just finished all this work, and I've realized that I have changed in the way that I approach video games and the way I'm making stuff, and me as a creator, that I have changed, and it's good. It's interesting. I was talking to a younger fella that I know, and he was kicking around how he'd like to make a video game, as a lot of people would like to make a video game, but he doesn't know how. And he was talking about his idea, and I just started kind of saying, I said, I would do this, I would do this. You got to make sure that to change the way that you focus on it, this idea that you have. The core, the game conceit, the main hook, the main behavior that you want it to be about has to be absolutely central to it. It can't just be a side idea, and you have to. And here's how you might reconfigure your thought to make that a core gameplay concept and to make it work. And I realized that I was thinking and I was talking at kind of a different level. That I have been a tinkerer. I've been a tinkerer, and I've been a hobbyist for a while. I've been making video games as a hobbyist and a tinkerer for about 10 years since I've been learning Game Maker. And if you've been watching the channel at all, you'll see that I've posted a lot about Godot. And yeah, I'm getting to be a Godot fanboy. I haven't joined the cult yet because my robe has not arrived in the mail. I don't know what that's all about. And I've been really nervous about needles. I don't want to get the tattoo. So I haven't joined the cult yet. That's a joke for all of you out there. People seem to want to bash Godot fanatics and say like, "Oh, it's a cult," and it's like, "Oh," they get mad. I don't know why they get mad. It's like, so somebody likes something. It's no skin off your nose. Who cares if they like it? I don't know. Maybe the Godot fans get a little aggressive about it. But I can say that I kind of get it. I kind of get it. It's actually changed the way that I've been thinking and the way I've been moving. And I've said that I've shifted to more of the director's chair, is how I put it. My director's hat is on, instead of saying I am the guy writing the code or doing the art or anything. I'm thinking about the game holistically in a way that I have not really done before. Because working with Game Maker, I think a lot of where my attention is, it's about what I can do with the engine, what I can do as a coder, what I can do just playing with stuff, which is why I love doing stuff like self-creating dungeons. It's the fun of making the system work. You see, it's the fun of making the system work. Now, some of you, if you're watching this, you're like, okay, well, okay, what do you mean? That's important. That's a very important distinction. If you're making a game and you're doing it because of the fun of making the systems work, you're doing it for yourself. You are the customer. You are the customer, and you're trying to please your own mind. You're trying to tickle that intellectual side of you, that engineering side of you, that part that wants to make something. Okay, when you're shifting in your brain, and I feel that this is happening with me, shifting in my brain to where it's no longer such a question of can I do it? It's a matter of should I? Should I? And I'm a professional graphic designer, and it's not a matter. And I get this all the time when somebody's walking up behind me. They go, "Oh, look at that font. Oh, I like that font. Oh, it looks all purple for a second. That looks cool." I'm like, "Okay, dude, it's not a matter of whether it looks cool. Okay, I can make stuff look cool all day long. That's easy. That's easy when you know what you're doing. I'm not interested in making it look cool. I'm interested in getting the message across that we need to. I'm interested in making it cohesive. I'm interested in balancing the elements that I've got here. I'm interested in, well, what if I flip the whole thing sideways, do it horizontal or doing it vertical? And I'm interested in other questions about, will this translate in different sizes? I'm interested in questions about, if you want this to be imprinted as a embroidery, I have to do thick, more simple lines to make it workable. I'm not interested in making it look cool. I've got a zillion other questions that are in my head buzzing around because I know what I'm doing and because I'm a professional. It's not a matter of can I do it, it's a matter of should I. I sound like Ian Malcolm right there. You didn't stop to ask whether you should. Um, and and that's where it is with game dev. I'm not doing stuff in what I'm creating just because I want to see if it's possible. I want to see if it is a good idea, if the idea has legs. Okay, if I had an idea, like I've been just when I get tired of working on Tiny, I stop and I work on a different game just to kind of clear my head. I'm working on a space game, and it's a game that I've messed around with before in Game Maker. I wanted to see what it would look like in a 3D space and how hard it would be to do in Godot. Turns out it went really fast and it looks really cool. All right, that's fine. But I'm not under any illusions of thinking that this is like going to be a great seller or something. Just because I can make it doesn't mean that you want to buy it. You see? And I'll say it to you, just because you can make it, it doesn't mean that somebody else wants to buy it. And I was thinking about this earlier, and I've almost yelled about it on the channel at times of saying, God, please don't quit your day job. Please. There are too many people out there quitting their day job and they don't know what they're getting into. They don't, no, nobody asked you to do that. Nobody asked for the game that you want to make. You might be sitting there going, this is the best game ever, and I really want to make it. Nobody cares because you and 10,000 other people said the same thing. You know, it's like the next time somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to make a platformer," I'm like, I don't. If I'm going to punch you in the mouth, that is like lesson 1 or 2 for people learning to make video games is to make a freaking platformer. I don't want to make a platformer anymore. The only people who should be making platformers are the ones who are making a concept that can only exist as a platformer. That the concept behind it is so strong that the concept needs to be a platformer in order to exist. That's why something like Celeste exists and other games that are riffing on that exist. So your game needs to exist in a way that it can only make sense in the form that you're giving it. Not a matter of, I feel like making a platformer. I could make a platformer if I wanted to. That's not the question. The question is, does the world need another platformer? And is the idea that I've got in my mind only going to work as a platformer? You see, the form and the function need to be in sync together. And I need to think about that to say, if I wanted to make a game about some concept that's rattling through my mind, it's going to be a platformer, but you're a zombie. Okay, that's fine. Why? Why? You don't have to be a zombie to make it a platformer. In fact, there's other ways to do that. If you want to play as the zombie, perfectly fine. I would say, why not make a tower defense game where you are spawning zombie hordes and somebody else is defending the castle against you, and your goal is to kill all the humans and make more zombies or something like that. You could do it in any different direction. In a game like Noita, the whole idea is to create a system where the entire world is destructible. The fact that it's a magical based game, I don't know, to me, that's secondary to the main hook of the game, and that is pixel level destructible terrain and chain interactions between different materials in a game. The whole thing could have been sci-fi and it would have worked just as well. This is why I started messing around with the concept of Cowboy Dungeon. And I stopped doing it. It is on my Fold Up Games itch.io if you want to see it. I did that because I did Dungeon-esque, and it was a lot of fun. But I thought this dungeon design concept would work. It'd be really cool if you switch it to something else. It could be science fiction. Has anybody done a Western theme? And I thought, well, that'd be cool. It would be cool. It would be cool. I concur. It would be cool. A Western themed dungeon crawler cool idea. And I added spirit elements to the whole thing. So it's actually a underworld dungeon. You see what I mean? I hooked two ideas together. So I didn't just say cowboy in a dungeon and it's all, and now it's fences instead of block walls. And that's a paint job change. You see, we have to change the game in a fundamental way so that it only functions in the way that you built it. So a cowboy in a dungeon has got to be distinctly different from just a character whose skin is that of a cowboy. It can't just have the trappings of looking like a cowboy in a dungeon. It has to function in such a way that the game really doesn't work any other way. And when I start connecting ideas together like that and saying, okay, it's not good enough just to be a Western theme, it needs to have this whole spiritual overtone to it so that the cowboy is actually in the underworld. And now I'm asking the question of why and getting into story. And the story is he wants to rescue, in the case of this one, it was so silly. The story is that his favorite prized bull is taken to the underworld and he's going to rescue it, and then he winds up with other adventures along the way. The story doesn't have to be complicated, but I'm a big believer in story being absolutely critical to good games, absolutely critical. And if anything, I get in too far with story, and I have to pull back because I'm kind of a storyteller at heart. One of my hobbies includes writing books. I've got several books published on Amazon, by the way. That's not meant to be a humble brag. It ties back into my other video about when ADHD finally clicks. Okay. All of these different hobbies and all these different interests coalescing into making something. And what's happening is that as that coalescing is happening in my brain, is as I continue to work towards mastery in something, the concept of game design starts to become part of it. Not learning Game Maker, not learning Godot, that's an engine, but game design. How does a player approach it? And also, I think a lot of what I'm touching on here is the idea of positioning in the marketplace. And that's why I was joking about platformers, is because it's that question of, do we need another? Does anybody care? And this is the part where I get for some reason, I get really just cheesed off about it. Not because I'm mad at anybody, but because I just want to scream at them to say, stop wasting your time. Don't make dumb decisions. Don't make bad life decisions and do damage to your trajectory in life because you're not thinking things through. If you knew what you were getting into as a game developer, you would realize that I'm about to get rid of my annoying 40-hour-a-week job in favor of an 80-hour-a-week job that doesn't pay until it finally clicks. And the idea that I've got had better click, or else I'm not going to be able to make rent in a few months. And you had better have some savings in order to do it, to tide you over until it does. And it's not going to be a matter of a few months. You don't know what that cycle is going to be like. And if the game doesn't hit, what's going to happen to you? Do you have the runway to make another game? So this is where the questions of, are you a tinkerer? Do you actually know what you're doing? Are you a hobbyist? Or do you actually have something that anybody out there in the marketplace would, honest to goodness, want to give you real money to buy? If you say, I love making tacos, it doesn't mean you should go and start a taco truck. That's a whole business operation. And it means making tacos day in and day out. Do you still love them? Or do you just love the idea of them? Do you just love the idea of, wow, the freedom of having a taco truck, and then trying to find out where you can park it, and trying to find events, and then trying to pay fees for it, and jumping through all the hoops? There's a lot involved in it aside from just, wow, imagine me making tacos out of a truck. Well, yeah, imagine that, but there's a lot more to it. And it's the same thing with video games, because people look at it and think, oh, that's going to be easy. I'm going to jump right into it. It'll be, I have a dream. I could make video games. I don't care. I don't, the reason I say I don't care, and the reason I get sounding irked about it, It's because I say the same thing to myself. I'm not saying I am the gatekeeper. I'm telling you what I tell myself. When I'm working on a game here, Tiny, the last Wayfinder, my whole thing is, what if you take on an idea and make a video game in a world where actually, honest to goodness, feels like you are in a world where you really are tiny? Because every other game about a tiny character is always some kind of a gimmick. It's always some kind of a gimmick. It's actually a big open plain or something. Most games start out with blocked out plains and they don't go much further than that. And then they do silliness like, "Oh, wow, look at that. You're bouncing up and down on this object. It's a everyday household object. Oh my word, look, it's a dripping faucet outside. Woo, it made a river. Look at this house that they all live in is actually a tin can. There's a label on it and everything." I'm like, "Oh, for God's sake, please just kill me now. Just kill me now. Go collect 500 of this object now and bring them back." Like, please just stop. And so I stop and say, can we just get to the basic idea, the basic core concept, and just go that route? If I can get the core concept across and just we're done, okay, we'll be doing really well. It's like a game where you say, I want to fly a hang glider. That doesn't mean I want to fly a hang glider through 500 loops and do a race. It means, could you not just let me chill out and fly a hang glider today because it's a pretty thing to do? I always wanted them to make a Wii surfing game on the Wii Fit board, and they never did do it. And I knew that they would have you surfing through rings and in a competition and Wii me characters. I'm like, dude, all I want to do is stand in front of my television with a Wii Fit board and just surf. If you could let me do that, that would be awesome. No, they never do it. They never do the simple game that you really want. And so that's when I come along and say, you know what? I just want the simple joy of being able to look up at grass looming overhead and see insects and things going overhead. And I wound up just sort of falling backward into making the game and having to figure out in reverse what would make it fun and what gameplay elements really needed to be there. And at this point, if I were to start over again, I'd probably go in a different direction. But what I'm realizing is that just because you have improved as a developer, it doesn't mean that anything that you've created up until that point is junk. It doesn't mean that you should restart. I just watched a video. Oh, it drove me nuts. And I don't know if it's awesome or it sucks. I don't want to name names. It looked really nice, but they had this beautiful, beautiful Unreal Engine fantasy game. It looked like $1 million, and the guy was bragging about having dropped in $800,000 into starting his own studio, and he hired and rehired and hired and rehired and started and restarted on this project over the last couple years with different developers to finally get this really beautiful vision that he had for a game, and it really looks like what he wanted it to. I'm like, bro, how many people did you fire? How much money did you spend? And how much time did you burn starting and restarting on a game that frankly nobody asked for? Is there a game in here or does it just look really pretty? You could tell me that, my gosh, this is the most beautiful fantasy game ever, and it looks exactly like what was in my head, and I still don't care. You think I don't have a fantasy game in my head too? Hello. But the question is, does anybody really care? Do you have a unique offering in the marketplace that's not been done already? Game look pretty. Okay, that's great. You look at a game like Tiny Glade, and their scope and their premise is very, very, very narrow. This is one of the games where they actually do the thing. Like I said, why don't you just let me surf? Here's a thing. Why don't you build a beautiful cottage in a beautiful forest, just in a meadow or a little glade here? And just what's the point? Well, you just build the house. There's no greater game loop going on where you have to, set up automation and markets and get unlocks or complete quests. It's just build the house and make pretty. I admire a game with narrow scope like that. I admire a game with fixed scope like that, and I think sales numbers would reflect that. That a lot of people admire that too. And so I'm thinking, why not get myself to the place where I have a clear understanding about what it is I'm making and why I'm making it and why anybody would want to buy it, right? And if you cannot clearly say why you're doing it and why anybody should buy it, more importantly, then you probably need to stop and rethink things. So when people are telling me I've got a game in my head that I really want to make, like, okay, great, that's great. I'm not telling you not to make it, but don't sit there and work under the false impression that everybody is just dying to play that game because they're not. They're just not. Unless you hit upon something that's got broad appeal and you actually did it, and it's possible, but it's a really competitive market. You understand? It's a really competitive market. So if 3,000 people are adding new games into Steam Next Fest, which they did, that's just the stuff that's coming up that's being represented in Next Fest. So to me, my advice, this is advice to me is, bro, don't kid yourself. You right now, the trend is what they call friend slop. That's one of there's lots of trends, but there's one of the trends is the friend slop thing. And it's kind of rude. And slop, I think, is subjective. But a game like Peak, unfortunately, gets chalked into that, where it's like, well, it's just a silly game, but it's inexpensive and you just run around and you have fun together. Well, that's fine. It kind of got really kicked off with what is it, Deadly Company? Is that what it's called? Lethal Company. Um, that's a game that helped to really push that into high gear. It's just a crazy interactive game, hanging out, doing nutty things in a set environment with friends, and being able to help or hinder each other is hilarious, and people love it. So now you got another game, Paddle Paddle Paddle, coming out here, and this is the kind of game where the lower the effort, the more it becomes slop. So if you only spend a few weeks on it, it's definitely slop. If you spend months on it, then I think it's efficient. So when you have the team taking on a game like Peak, they take on the attitude of Game Jam. They're a professional team, and they were doing this as a palate cleanser after some other more complicated, deeper games. And all of a sudden, bim bam boom, Bob's your uncle, and whatever else I can think to say. They've got a hit on their hands. It's not slop, but they also didn't kill themselves on it. They didn't overmarket it. They didn't put all their eggs in one basket. They didn't spend years on it. And it kills me when I see YouTubers saying, I worked for 5 years on my dream game. And I think, did anybody ask you to? Because everybody wants to be the next Harvest Moon. And we already have a Harvest Moon and an Animal Crossing and a Stardew Valley. And on it goes. I don't want to play a farming game. Maybe somebody out there is just dying for the next perfect farming game, but it ain't me. And I think that a lot of times when I'm looking in the marketplace and watching games that are coming out, I'm looking for something that's that kind of unique hook, that unique style, that unique special something. And it's not about being the biggest and the most intricate and the most complicated. It's not about the best graphical fidelity. I think that it's got to be a game that has appeal. That is the key word that I think is rattling around in my mind. So when I'm thinking about games right now, it's not about tinkering with systems and seeing if I can. It's more about what I can create that will resonate and will have appeal with a focus that makes sense, something that I won't kill myself making. So if it's a big hit, huzzah. If it's not, okay. Looking at me working on Tiny, I don't expect it to be a huge hit. That is not my expectation. I am managing expectations hard. I am underselling it, if anything. I mean, God, I expect to make more than $50 off it if I can recoup my expenses on it. And there were expenses. This is where I'm starting to take myself more seriously. I'm willing to put money into it. If I can recoup my expenses, I'll consider myself happy about it. But my brain is shifting into a different kind of a state where I'm saying, okay, what kind of a game might I be able to create where it's going to really connect with people, have appeal, an understandable concept that you can get really quickly, and is something they want to interact with, and that I can do it at scale, at scope, and not kill myself on it. Because I'd also like to make a pixel art RPG that's kind of a micro MMORPG, and that's outside of my skill set. I think it would be cool if, okay? I think it would be cool if I could make this, if I could build that, if I could design this, if I could publish that. And it doesn't mean that anybody is out there wanting it. And it doesn't mean that I have the skills to create it. So my mind is changing on it. And I think that I am maturing as a designer. And I'm also at a place of looking at how much time I'm going to spend over the next years of my life. I got woo, gray hair. You look at my video called Look at Me, where I got really dark, really serious. And I'm like, stop wasting your life. You don't live forever. And that's kind of my message. And I circle the same messages over and over again. I repackage them and I say them again because it's something that I think a lot of people need to hear and that I need to hear too. But anyway, this is me evolving as a designer, evolving as someone who is not just tinkering, but is trying to think about running a scalable small business in my free time. That is not the same thing as I'm going to learn a game engine and make a game. I watched these people in this videos. I could tell it's like a crash and burn, slow moving train wreck coming up where somebody puts on this beautiful YouTube show of I'm becoming an indie gamer and starting an indie game studio, by which they actually meant I'm learning Unity and I'm filming the heck out of it. And I'm sipping tea over my laptop with the morning sunshine. And I've rented office space and I have a corporate name on the wall. Oh my gosh. Talk about getting out ahead of your skis. I was just watching a retrospective on Project Zomboid, and these dudes are three guys in an apartment who have barely anything but rice and beans to eat because they're so broke, just trying to make this game a reality. Like that's the knuckle down hard reality of it, not a full blown beautifully edited YouTube channel. You don't have time for that. Not if you actually were starting a studio. And to me, a studio does not equal I learn software and make game. A studio is a complete organization that creates games and hires people. So my mindset when I'm creating games right now is getting into more of director mindset and more of a I don't have a studio, but if I did, I treat the different facets of my work, my time, and what I'm doing. I treat them all kind of like employees or agents, I guess. So I will switch gears and be graphics person, and then I'll switch gears and be marketing person, and then I'll switch gears and be the other one. But each fragment of that becomes like a micro studio that I am managing. But my I know it sounds weird, but my higher brain functions are to think like the director of all of these split personalities or behaviors that I have to engage in. Because when you're a solo indie dev, you have to wear all the hats and you have to do all the work. So the question is, how do you manage yourself? And if you're a tinkerer, if you're just goofing around, then you're somebody who is just messing around to see if you can do something because you like the game engine or you're really fascinated by code. And there's a huge difference between somebody who loves to make a tech demo and is trying to see if they can make a ridiculously wonderful looking weather system versus somebody who's actually going to publish a game. And you could make a beautiful weather system and you could make a game where you click buttons to change the weather. That could be a game. Okay. But you have got to have a certain kind of vision as a games publisher, as a games director, as somebody who is willing to take your own creative energy and actually turn it into a product, so to speak. to turn it into a game that gets finished, a game that gets shipped, a game that gets published in a timely fashion, and a game that somebody will buy. So that I think is the change that's happening in my mind. I'm not interested in seeing if I can do it. It's more of a question about should I and what will I choose to spend my time and energy on, and how can I do it in the most efficient way possible, and how can I reach the market, and how can I make this game have a better appeal, and to make sure that it is in scope and that my game is appealing to its core concept and its main game conceit, its main hook, its main appeal is emphasized in such a way that it is central to the game's functionality. And anything that's not necessarily needed can be scrapped. And that idea of kill your darlings is one that they say in writing and in editing, where I had to cut out a whole chunk of the game that I really loved. But I got to trim back scope, and I have to be the director, and I have to be brutal with myself sometimes. But okay, that's what's on my mind today. I know, we just went there, didn't we? We just got all kinds of deep. Thank you for coming to my, late night game dev talk. I hope that you will be awesome.